Hello out there, my name is Laura Parrish and I'm better known as the hashtag TNS Mastermind and founder of TNS Marketing. And today is Thursday, March 20th, 2014, and today is also a very extraordinary day for me. It's about 5 minutes after 8 p.m. here on the East Coast, and I decided to do this live hangout really on the fly. I really decided to do it 15 minutes ago, quite honestly, so I didn't have a lot of preparation for putting out links and saying, hey, come watch this. So if you happen to be seeing this live, it's because you were in the right time at the right place for a reason, because I believe everything happens for a reason on Facebook, and saw my post that says, hey, I'm going to talk about a gratitude for my 3 years of sobriety on a live hangout, like right now. So I created it, I put it out there. So if you're here and you're watching this live, welcome. Thank you for joining me. I'm really doing this not to be selfish, but maybe a little bit. I'm doing this for myself because it's super important to me to remind myself of where I was and the type of person I was and who I am today. And just a little bit of a background for those of you who don't know who I am. When I introduced myself as the hashtag TNS Mastermind and founder of TNS Marketing, I'm an affiliate marketer for a company called Empower Network. I've had extraordinary success with it. I've made over $190,000 inside the Empower Network in less than 2 years. Income disclaimer, my results are not typical. Go to www.empowernetwork.com/income.php to see the average earnings of an Empower Network affiliate. But this call isn't about that. Now, I might talk about how working from home like I do and earning what I earn plays into what I do now and how my life is now, maybe towards the end of the hangout. But I'm not sure. The purpose of this call wasn't to market my work from home business or try to get people to join me. But if you do, that's great. If you relate to anything I have to say, or any feelings that I have, or if I speak to you directly or speak to your heart directly, and you decide that you want to lock arms and join my team and work from home and change your life, then great. If not, that's okay too, because like I said, that wasn't the point of this call. First, I want to apologize because I think I'm getting sick again. I've got the whole head thing going on, so I might sound a little nasally, and I might have to take a moment to blow my nose or something in the middle of this. And I have a team call tonight as well, and I've been out all day long, very, very busy. I knew I wanted to do a video today to thank people, which I'm going to do my thank yous here in a few minutes. So I knew I was going to do a video, but I had no idea that I wanted to do it in a live hangout fashion for you guys to be on live. I had just planned on recording it, and I actually wanted to record it outside because it was beautiful here today in Harrisonburg, Virginia outside, but it was very, very windy. And so I know it wouldn't have made for good recording because it was loud. But I've been busy and out running around all day and attending a meeting to help myself out and get some recognition for this great accomplishment that I have in having 3 years of sobriety now. And we, for those of you who know me, you know that I have a little boy named Blake, he's 3, and a daughter named Samantha, who's 6. And we had been looking into academies. He got accepted to 4 academies for preschool for this upcoming fall, and I went and visited the last 2 today and made a decision and got him enrolled. So I'm super excited about that. My little boy is not so little anymore. He's growing up, and he's going to be starting preschool this fall. Look, I'm like getting emotional already. I'm going to try not to cry through this, right? But this has been a very emotional day for me, right? Not going to cry, not going to cry, right? Okay, so first let me do my thank yous, okay? First, I want to thank each and every single person who left me voicemails, who left me private messages inside of my Facebook messages, who left me emails inside of my email boxes, and I have lots of emails. I had emails from every inbox that I have. Was going crazy today. People who sent me cards in the mail, the real mail, the snail mail, right? I want to give a shout out to my parents who sent me this beautiful, which I haven't eaten yet because I wanted to show it to you guys. I just took it out of the refrigerator. This beautiful edible arrangement, right? Edible arrangement. And I want to give a shout out to the dynamic duo, right? And if you're watching, you know who you are. the dynamic duo, my girls, they sent me these beautiful, beautiful 3 white roses, which white roses symbolize friendship and purity, both. So I love that, and they gave me 3 because I've been sober for 3 years now, to celebrate, and a couple balloons that say congrats, you know, and a beautiful note that was attached. So thank you to Christina and Vicky Beladia for thinking of me and sending me flowers. That really means more than you know. So what a journey, you know, what a journey. And I'm actually, there's a pop-up here on my page here. I'm going to get rid of that and take a sip of my soda. What a journey it's been. And this is going to be different if you do know who I am and you're on my team watching this just because you want to hear, you know, how your leader feels about today in her life, then that's great. You know my story already. For those of you who don't know my story or anything, or never been on a call with me, most of my calls, like I said, are based on, you know, why you should work from home and change your life like I have. And this call, I really want to do something different. See, because when I do calls talking about how I work from home and how it's changed my life, and I make lots of money and all that, you see big checks behind me, and I've already talked about how much I've made inside the Empower Network. I also talk a little bit about my story. I talk about how, you know, it wasn't, you know, just 3 years ago now that I wasn't living right, that I was drinking, and I wasn't a good wife, and I wasn't a good mother, I wasn't a good person, quite honestly, and how I decided to change my life, right? And that's pretty much all I talk about. I don't really go to the depths of what it was like for me, what my journey of alcoholism was like for me, and how I figured out, hey, I really am an alcoholic, and I really need to get help. And see, a lot of people join me in my business because they relate to my story. They relate to the fact that I'm a stay-at-home mom, right, who has a husband who works all the time trying to pay the bills just so I can be a stay-at-home mom, right? But that, you know, wasn't helping financially because I was at home taking care of the kids. People relate to me for that. Many people relate to me because they have struggled with or are struggling with the disease of alcoholism or drug addiction, right? So a lot of people join me because they relate to me on those bases. But there's a lot of people out there who I could help more. And what I mean by that is when I talk about my business and you know, my past and where I was at and where I'm at now, it's very, you know, not in depth. It's very brief and say, okay, you know, I'm a recovering alcoholic, I've been sober, but you know, I struggled and I wasn't living right. But I don't really talk about the way I was living, as some friends of mine would call the war stories, right? The way I was living, the things I was doing, the places I ended up, right? And how I made the determination that I really had a problem, and then, you know, what I did about it, and my struggle even in that, what I did about it, right? So I want to go in depth about that because I think I can help more people, because there's people out there, and I know this because of this business. I've learned the power of my voice. I've learned, and that's not a egotistical thing saying that when I speak people listen, but I've learned that when anyone speaks, someone is always listening, right? And so many people in this world don't know that about themselves yet. And it's one of the things I love about this business because it taught me that. It taught me that there is someone somewhere out there who needs to hear exactly what I have to say. So I call that the power of my voice, because there's someone out there going through the same thing that I went through and that I go through even to this day, that wonders if they're alone, that wonders if, am I really an alcoholic because I don't fit this criteria and I don't fit that criteria and I never did that, you know. So I really want to talk about my in-depth story tonight, and this call could last 30 minutes, yeah, right, because all my calls are like forever, or this call could last 2 hours. And like I said, I have a team call tonight, but I've already let them know I'm pushing it back, and you know what, they love me, and they know what I'm doing and what today means to me. And if I am on this hangout for 5 hours and I don't get to my team call tonight, I'm sure that they understand, and we can just do it tomorrow night. But I really, really want to delve into the dirty stuff a little bit, right? Because I believe that there's someone watching this right now, whether you're watching it live or whether you're watching the recording, either is in the same position that I was in, either is feeling the way that I was feeling about their life, or doing the things that I was doing in their lives. And maybe if you are, you know someone who is, right, and you don't know how to help them. Okay, and if you see this, maybe you could say, hey, why don't you just go watch this, because, I don't know, just check it out. Maybe you can relate to this chick, right? This crazy chick from Virginia who just wanted to get on a live, hang out in front of a camcorder and talk to the computer, and tell her story about her struggles and stuff. So I'm going to do something that I've never done before. There's very few people, and when I say very few, I mean people less than 5, less than a handful, that know some of the deepest, darkest things that, I went through in my struggle of alcoholism. And I'm not going to put everything out there and share everything, but I'm going to touch bases on how bad it really was, and the reason I want to do that is to give someone out there hope. I talked about this on stage in Washington, D.C., and I want to say it really quickly because I think it's absolutely relevant. And that is that we all have 2 choices in life. We can choose to be selfish, or we can choose to be selfless, right? And what I mean by that is, some of the things I'm going to tell you guys about myself are embarrassing, right? But number 1, they're the truth. Okay, and number 2, I really don't care, and this might sound harsh, but this is the truth. I really don't care what you think about me, because what your opinion of me is not my business. What your opinion is of me is not my business. And anyone who judges me for who I used to be or the type of person I used to be instead of respecting me for the person I am now is not someone I want to run with anyway, right? So I choose to be not selfish. I want to put my dirt out there because, number 1, no one can ever hurt me with something that I've put public, right? So people who want to be rude and say, oh, what you do for a living is a scam or whatever, working from home and stuff, and oh, well, you used to drink and you were a bad person. I'm like, you can't hurt me with something I already publicly talked about, which if you know my story, you already know those things about me. But so I choose to be selfless and share my story because even though what I've been through is embarrassing, I did it to myself, honestly, and I'm more concerned about helping people that can relate to my story and say, man, I'm going through exactly what she went through. I'm not alone, and can learn that they can change the way I changed and don't feel stuck in this hopeless, forever, never-ending circle, it's never going to end and life is always going to be this way. So I don't want to be selfish. I would rather, put myself out there and share things that aren't the coolest things to share about myself, and know that by being selfless, I'm helping someone else change their life. So, I wanted to say that first and really just put out there, if you have a choice in life about sharing something about yourself in your past, and maybe you're embarrassed about it, or you're afraid of what people will think about you, don't be, okay? Because like I said earlier, someone somewhere needs to hear exactly what you're saying because they can relate to it. And I don't believe in coincidence, right? I believe everything happens for a reason. And if someone makes it to this call that you're watching right now, whether it be live or if you're watching the recording, there's a reason you made it to this call. It means you were in the right time at the right place, and you were meant to see what I had to say, either for yourself or for someone you know. And the same thing for you if you turn around and pay it forward and get in front of a camera or get in front of an audio, and just record your voice and start talking about something, in your life, not necessarily anything bad, good things, bad things, addictions, whatever the case may be, it doesn't matter. Share a part of your story, who you are, because I can promise you that someone somewhere needs to hear it. Right, needs to hear it because it will help them understand that they can change, that they don't have to live the way that they were living or are living, and that they can be different. So that's the first thing I wanted to share. And honestly, don't worry about what people think about you. I used to worry so much what people thought about me. And then I had to learn that what other people think about me really isn't my business, because I'm never going to be able to make everybody happy in this world. And the sooner I figured that out, the sooner I became happier, because I stopped trying to be, you know, for everybody else, and I started being who I needed to be for me. And by taking care of me, I was able to turn around and take care and be the best mom, wife, you know, the whole 9 yards, individual person that I'm able to be now, not only for myself, but, you know, for family members and for my team as well. And also, I do want to give a shout out to Katie. I don't know if you will see this, but I love you, girl, and I appreciate you. And I didn't text you back earlier because we, you know, I've been running around busy all day with Blake stuff, and I had to, well, I wanted to go to a meeting and whatnot. So I did get your text message, and I love you and I appreciate you. And give hugs and kisses to Sophie for me, and Barry, and if you talk to Larry, to him as well. I love you guys. Appreciate you so much. So that was really the premise of what I wanted, the preface, not the premise, the preface of what I wanted to talk about before I got into the depths. So let's talk about the dirty stuff now, right? So here I am. You know, I started drinking in high school, and quite honestly, I don't even remember my senior year, and I was everything. You know, I was the cheerleader. I was the actually first person in my entire school who made varsity in 10th grade for cheerleading. I lettered in that. I ran track. I played volleyball. You know, I did it all, and I started drinking. And by the time my senior year rolled around, I didn't even remember anything, quite honestly. And you know, life goes on, life goes on. I'm not going to go into all that, but what I really want to talk about is, you know, my drinking got so bad, and I was drinking and driving all the time later on in life. Now, I've been married for over 11 years, and so my husband has seen, you know, pretty much all of this. Quite honestly, the funny thing is my husband was my bartender. That's how we met, if you can imagine that. But we were friends for several years before we even went on a date, which was cool. But really, my drinking just progressed, and I was drinking and driving, and I would get into, you know, trouble, and, you know, my husband would try to clean it up for me, you know, so I didn't get in trouble, and, you know, and I would, like, drink to the point where I would fall over, and, like, one time my glasses cut my eye because I fell on concrete, and my glasses smashed up against my face and cut my eye, and I was bleeding from the head, you know, and you know, he would always try to help and cover things up, and a lot of people would call that type of person an enabler, right? And maybe he was, but that's okay. That's, you know, that's not his fault. My disease is my problem. My disease is my fault, and he just did the best that he could to try to help me the best way he knew how. But I constantly was driving. I never drank at home until after the bars closed, right? Because when the bars close, if you can relate to anything I'm saying, it's like at 2 o'clock when they kick you out of the bars, you know, you wanna go home and you don't want to stop drinking, right? So, you know, all the people I hung out with, you know, I'd be like, who's got beer, or who's got this, or who's got that, and we would either, you know, go to their place or go to my place and stay outside, you know, so it wouldn't be loud, you know, inside the house and stuff, and then, you know, we would drink till all hours and things like that, and until we couldn't drink anymore, and then pass out, you know. And if you can relate to anything I'm saying, it's like you wake up the next day and you feel like so bad and so horrible, and you swear you're not going to do it again. You're like, oh, I feel horrible, I'm not going to do that again. And then come 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock in the afternoon, you're like, man, I'm pumped up, I'm recovered from last night, I'm ready to do it all again, right? And you feel good and you want to go out. And quite honestly, for me, it didn't start out, you know, as consistently like drinking like that all the time. For me, it really started because I wanted to feel a part of something. Being a very strong-willed, strong-minded person like I am, and independent, and, you know, taking care of myself and things like that, and being, you know, a strong woman, and then having kids, you lose a piece of that, because as much as you love your children, and I do love my children very much, there's no doubt about that, you have to devote all of yourself really to them, and they take all of you, you know, you give yourself to them to take care of them and raise them. And at least for me, I was like, I felt like a piece of me was missing, and I felt like I was always stuck at home, you know, and not able to go out. And so, like, I started connecting with people on Facebook, right, so I could have some sort of adult interaction, right, because, like I said, I started drinking in high school, but I wasn't a drinker every single day since high school. It's like I would go in spurts. I would drink, and then not drink for a long time, and then I would drink, and then I didn't drink for a couple years actually, but at that point I didn't even know I was an alcoholic, and then I would go in long stints again. But I really just wanted to feel a part of something, so I would always like spend my days, after I had the kids. Well, after I had Samantha, I would, Samantha's my 6-year-old, I would try to get the house clean and everything done and everything the way it's supposed to be, and Samantha in bed, so that when my husband came home from work, I could be like, okay, you're home from work, Samantha's in bed, the house is clean, the dishes are done, the laundry's done, now it's my time. I need Laura time. I need me time, and that was my thing, right? I wanted to go out and have some time to myself. I wanted adult interaction. I wanted to be around people. I've always been a social butterfly. I wanted to spend time, and he's a restaurant manager, so by the time he got off, it was like 9, 10 o'clock at night, sometimes later than that. So the only thing to do would be like go out, and for those of you who don't know me, I'll tell you I love to sing. I love to sing karaoke. I used to be a lead singer of a band, and so I would go out, and what's there to do at 9, 10 o'clock at night, 11 o'clock at night? I would go out to a bar, right? So I would go out to bars, and I would hang out with all my friends, which, now that I've been sober a while, I know they weren't my friends, because if any of those people were really my friends, they would have kicked my ass and said, you are an alcoholic, you need to get your shit straight, right? But I would go out. And I would drink. And I would drink and drink and drink, and then I would get in my car and act like I was fine to drive. And I wasn't. Thank the good Lord, I never killed anyone. I never injured another person. I never... I've injured myself a few times by drinking and driving. And the countless cars that I've totaled are just ridiculous. I can tell you that. Never been in trouble in my life. Never been in trouble with the law. Not even a speeding ticket. Nothing. But when it came to drinking and driving, I'm your girl. That was me. I was the one who did it. And how many times I've been in jail, I can't even count, quite honestly. Consequences for my actions. And there was a period where I got sober, and I did. I got sober, and I stayed sober for 15 months. And then in January of 2011, I fell off the wagon, as they like to call it, and I started drinking again. And in March 19th, 3 years ago, was my last drunk. It was the last time I drank, and I did drive that night, and I crashed my car into a tree head on, and got out of the car and left the scene. And then when the police came knocking on my door, acted like, oh, somebody must have stolen my car, right? And acted like it wasn't me. Huge deal. Got thrown in jail for a very long time. And my son was only 8 months old at that point, so my son was 8 months old, and off mommy goes again. And I'd had enough. I'd had enough. And so March 20th was the first day that I've been sober, currently, 3 years ago. So today is my 3-year sobriety date. And only by the grace of God, one day at a time, am I able to stay sober. But what I really want to talk about is the how do you know piece, because I struggled with that so much. And I really hope that by sharing this with you guys, that someone somewhere who hears this can relate to it and say, I get it now, right? So the first time I got sober for 15 months, I checked myself into rehab. And when I went to rehab, I went into rehab sober. I had been sober for 2 days. My original sobriety date was September 6th, which was 2 days after my daughter's birthday, because her birthday is September 4th. My original sobriety date was September 6th. I quit drinking on her birthday, and checked myself into, or excuse me, I quit drinking on September 6th, and I checked myself into rehab on September 8th. And here's the deal: when you go to rehab, you go to these public groups, and then you have like these councils and stuff, and I'm a very black and white type of person when it comes to certain things, and my deal is I was ready to say, and I said this to the counselor, and I don't know that if I'm supposed to be able to say the counselor's names and stuff live, so I won't, but I kind of want to give her a shout out because she was awesome. But I know that she's not a counselor there anymore, but still anonymity, so I won't say her name. She was awesome. I can say her first name. Her first name was Pam. But I said to her, I said, Pam, I said, so here's the deal. And this was a 30-day rehab program I checked myself into. I said, if I'm an alcoholic, cool, right? I'm okay with that. I'm okay with the label. I'm okay with, you know, saying, okay, I'm an alcoholic. I don't even care about what people think. But what I want to know is if I am, fine. Tell me what steps to do to fix it, and then it'll be fixed, and then I can move on with my life, right? Because that's the type of person I am. It's like, okay, if this is the situation, you have to accept the situation, you know, and I was willing to accept being an alcoholic. Say, okay, that's what I am, and then say, tell me what to do to fix it, and then take those action steps to fix it, and then, you know, move on with your life. Because I'm a good listener, you know, contrary to what a lot of people might say about me, because I talk so much, I really am a good listener. I was willing to accept what I was, if that's what I was, and then learn how to fix it, and then move on from it. And she kind of laughed at me and said, well, honey, I appreciate that, but it just doesn't work that way. I'm like, what do you mean it doesn't work that way, right? And you know, from having, I should have known that, because I have, you know, family members that you know, are recovering alcoholics, and in my family throughout, and I should have seen things like that, but I never paid attention because I was too all up in my own stuff, in my own head, right, thinking that I was living right and managing my life just fine. You know, so it was really difficult for me to understand, what do you mean I can't just fix it? You know, and I had to, it wasn't explained to me, I had to figure it out myself, that this is really a lifestyle change, right? That it's not just, okay, you have a problem, this is what you do to fix it, you know, and then once it's fixed, you can move on with your life and drink like a normal person again, and, you know, just pretend like it's all said and done and over, because unfortunately, alcoholism is a disease, and it just doesn't work that way. Quite honestly, every single morning when I get up, I have a choice to make. I can choose to drink, or I can choose to not drink. And I love at it in the fashion of, you can only face two ways in your life, right? And so for me, I'm either facing towards a drink, or I'm facing away from a drink. There's no, like, well, what am I going to do today in between, right? You know, you make a decision. You're either facing towards a drink, or you're either facing away from a drink. It's kind of like success. If you choose to be successful in your life, you can choose to be successful, or you can choose to do nothing and fail, right? There's not really an in-between. You can just do nothing and exist, I guess, but who wants to do that, right? That's kind of a crummy type of lifestyle to live. So it was really difficult for me to grab the concept of, I can't fix this. Even if I accept it, I can't fix it, because I'm a fixer, right? I actually have, my personality is very similar to guys' personalities, in the aspect that guys like to fix things, you know, when it comes to, and I'm not trying to be sexist, I'm just talking about from my experience, you know, if you're with someone you care about, if you're female and you're with a guy that cares about you, and you talk to him and say, you have this problem, this is the way you're feeling, or whatever, the guy wants to fix it for you because he cares about you, you know, and I'm a fixer too. So I have a problem, I accept it, okay, how do I fix it? I just wanted to fix it, and it was very difficult for me to learn and understand that this is not something I can fix. This is something that I have to live with, and choose to live with successfully, or choose to let it kill me type of deal, right? Like it or not, I'm going to compare it to cancer, okay? And some people don't like that type of analogy, and some people will understand it, but this is not something you can just choose, you know? People can't just choose to get rid of their cancer. They have to live with it. How you live with it is what you can choose. So I have a disease, and I have to live with it, but how I live with it is my choice, and I choose to be sober. But the big thing that I want to talk about is the decision, right? The decision for me to say, okay, I'm an alcoholic, I get it. Because here's the deal. There are so many preconceived notions about what an alcoholic is, right? Honestly, there are. If you think about the word, and I would just implore you, if you're watching this, to close your eyes. And when I say the word alcoholic, just what are the first things that pop in your head? A way somebody looks, maybe what they're wearing, maybe where they live, maybe what type of drink they drink. What is it that pops into your head when I say the word alcoholic? right? You have this preconceived, built-in notion of what an alcoholic is, how they act, where they live, what they look like. You know, I tell people I'm a recovering alcoholic, they look at me and they're like, you do not look like you drink. And I don't, because that's not who I am. It was just a bad way that I used to live with bad choices, right? People can't believe it when I tell them I'm an alcoholic. It's crazy. And I'm like, y'all have no idea who type of person I used to be. And the type of things that I used to do that have really ripped at my guts and ripped at my heart and my soul, the guilt of it from being a bad mom. And fortunately, a good dear friend that I love dearly, William Wood, who is a hypnotist. Many of you in the business might know him. He is the brother of one of the co-founders of the company I'm an affiliate for. Really helped me out with a few of those things, just the gut-wrenching guilt that I had for some of the ways that I felt like I failed my children through the disease of my alcoholism. So he was wonderful and helped me with that. But really, people have this preconceived notion about what an alcoholic is, and so did I, right? So did I. So it was hard for me to, once I got the answer of, it's not something you just say you are and then you fix and move on. You have to come to the determination that you are and what you're going to do about it and how you're going to change your life and, blah, blah, blah. So I really struggled because, there's these books that I've read and pamphlets that I've read, that you can read to get help with this about, well, this person is like this and this person's like that and this and that. And I can tell you what my preconceived notion is, which may be completely different than yours, but my excuses were, well, I don't drink out of a brown bag, because a lot of people, picture an alcoholic as someone who brown bags it, right? I don't hide alcohol in my house. I was never, you see that in movies, right? That was one preconceived notion that I had, is that when you watch movies and you see like the stay-at-home mom who's an alcoholic, she's hiding bottles in like underwear drawers and closets and shoes and like wherever else they hide them, I don't know. But I never did that. So I was like, okay, well, I'm not an alcoholic because I don't brown bag alcohol. I don't hide alcohol in my house. I've never drank around my children, which I haven't. What else did I use as excuses of why I wasn't an alcoholic? I'm not homeless, because sometimes people look at alcoholics as people who live under bridges, who are homeless. I didn't drink away our finances. A lot of people who have addictions, whether it's alcohol or drugs or food addictions or whatever, spend the family's finances, that are meant to pay bills, on whatever their drug of choice is, whether it's alcohol, drugs, food, whatever your addiction is, right? I wasn't, drinking us out of house and home. I never drank at home, except, like I said, when it was after hours, and we wanted the party to continue, right? I never drank and drove with kids in the car, which was like the biggest retarded excuse ever, because even though my kids might not have been in the car with me, how many other millions of families were on the road at the same time I was with their kids in a car, right? So that was just the most ridiculous excuse I ever had. What else was it? I don't drink all the time, which is true, because I could go days and weeks without drinking and not have any side effects from not drinking, right? Another excuse of reason that I wasn't an alcoholic was I don't have withdrawals when I don't drink. A lot of people who are physically addicted to alcohol or drugs have they're called the DTs, tremor, shakes, something like that, where you like literally shake if you don't get your next fix, or you don't get to drink when you want or whatever. I never had withdrawal symptoms. I wasn't the type of person who was, I think it's called hair of the dog, or that you drink first thing in the morning. I never woke up and said, oh my gosh, I need a drink, right? So there were all these things, these lists that I compiled in my head of how I wasn't an alcoholic because I didn't fit in any of the categories, right? And one of the reasons, and my husband agrees that he was an enabler for me, that he also thought that I wasn't an alcoholic, is because he knew and he saw so many of the same things that I just said. And he has told me before, he's like, Laura, you could go months without drinking and it was no big deal. You never had the shakes, you never had withdrawal, you never did all those things. I never fit all the signs or symptoms of what we consider to be a classic, run-of-the-mill, what your preconceived notion in your brain is of what an alcoholic is. So he didn't believe that I was either. And, there are still people to this day that know me and know my past and know my story who tell me, I still really don't think that you are. And that's fine, right? Because what other people think about me doesn't matter, because that's not my business, right? But there was a moment, there was a turning point that had to happen for me to say, okay, I feel like I am for sure, or I feel like I'm not for sure. And when you have all those odds stacked against you, as far as that huge list of excuses that I just gave you, right, about, well, I didn't do this and I didn't do that, and I never did this and I never did that, and I'm not this type of person, and da-da-da-da-da-da-da, the whole gamut of why I'm not, because I never did those things, I had to look at, well, what is it about me that keeps me coming back for more, right? Or keep, getting in trouble and things like that. And I read something. I read something that changed my life. Excuse me for a second. And I can't really disclose where I read it from, but it was powerful, and if you want to know, you can message me privately. But I read something that answered the question for me. And if you're watching this right now and you can relate to anything that I just said on that list, right? That, you didn't do this, you didn't do this, you didn't do this, you didn't do this, you're not that type of person, you're fine going without drinking, you're fine this way, blah, 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 blah. But still you feel like something's not right with you and you're not sure what it is, and you're just trying to figure out what's going on with you, right? Because when you do drink, bad stuff happens, obviously, for me anyway. So I read something, and this is what I read. This is what it said, and I'll never forget what it said because it's ingrained in my brain. It said, the true definition of an alcoholic is not how much you drink. It is not when you drink. It is not where you drink. It is not what you drink. It is not how often you drink, and it is not who you drink with. The true definition of an alcoholic is what happens to you when you do drink. So if you're ever wondering about yourself, answer those questions, or answer that one question. What happens to you when you do drink, right? Because all those other things don't matter. That whole, I don't, hide alcohol, I don't do this, I don't drink at 5 in the morning, or 7 in the morning, I don't drink before 5 p.m., I don't this, I don't that. None of that matters. I can go months without drinking. That doesn't matter. I don't get the DTs. That doesn't matter, right? For me, at least, I cannot speak for anyone else, but I can share my experience, strength, and hope. And for me, at least, none of that stuff mattered. The true question that I had to ask myself is, what happens to me when I do drink? And experience had shown, time and time again, that bad things happen. Now, for me, that happened to be getting inside of a vehicle and thinking that I could drive it and driving, and then bad things happening, right? How many times do you have to go to jail before you realize you need to stop? You have a problem if you can't make the right decisions after you have some drinks, right? So that was the clincher for me. And it may not be driving for you. What if you get into arguments all the time? What if you're a happy-go-lucky and you're fine and blah, blah, but every time you drink too much, then you get into a knockdown, like fighting type, drag-out arguments with your significant other, your spouse, or other people, friends, family, start acting violently, things like that. So ask yourself, when you do drink, what happens to you? And that is your defining moment. And that's what defined it for me, because I made the decision that whether you, as an individual, want to classify me as an alcoholic or not, because like I said, I have friends of mine who say, I really don't think you are, Laura. That's okay, because it doesn't matter what they think in that aspect, because I choose to believe that I am because of that one question that I had to ask myself, which is, when I do drink, what happens? And bad things happen when I drink. So for me, it's about choosing not to drink, because I don't want bad things to happen in my life anymore. I didn't want to lose my children, and I knew that was going to happen. It was enough. I'd had enough. How many times, did I have to be locked away from my kids, that they're on the other side of a glass and they can't even They can't even touch me. They can only put their hand up on a glass, and I can only put my hand up to them. I just couldn't do it anymore. I couldn't do it anymore. So that was a defining moment for me making the decision of, well, am I or am I not? Was that one question. It doesn't matter all that other crap. It doesn't matter that list that, well, I don't do this and I don't do that and I don't do this and I don't act like that. None of that mattered. What mattered is, what's the true answer to the question of what happens to you in your life when you do drink? That's the true question. Excuse me for a second. So that's what defined it for me. Now, that happened, and I stayed sober for 15 months, and then I drank again because I thought I had it under control, right? And again, I already went through that. We already know what happened. 3 months later, my life was back into shambles, and it didn't work out. But I also want to talk about a really big aha moment that I had, which you guys will think is most of you will probably think it's really stupid, kind of maybe, because common sense would answer a question, but I guess I just didn't know, or I wasn't meant to know or think about it. I wasn't meant to think about the fact that that was common sense when I had the thought. But when I was in rehab, something happened that was a huge aha moment for me. And what that was have you ever been taking a shower, and you take a shower maybe at a hotel or even maybe in your own house? This happens, or you take a shower somewhere where the tub doesn't drain properly, right? Like, so what happens is when the tub doesn't drain properly, water starts to build up while you're in the shower. So then, like, water, it starts to build up on your feet. So you're staying in the shower, you're taking a shower, and water is starting to build up on your feet. And I was in rehab. I'd only been in for a few days. And I figured out, okay, I made the decision. And I was standing in the shower, and I looked down at the water that was pooling up on my feet. And I had a curiosity moment, a curious moment, I said to myself. And I had my wedding rings on, right? And I stood there in the shower, and I thought to myself, this is a true story, completely random, but this is a true story. This is what happened. I was standing there in the shower at rehab, and the water was pulling up around my feet, and I said to myself, I wonder what would happen if I took my rings off and I put them in the water, right? Like, I set them in the water. I wonder if they would float. And okay, don't laugh, right? Because common sense is like, no, they're not going to float. Metal doesn't float, that's like, tungsten, and it's not going to float, right? I don't know why I thought that, but I did. I had that thought. I just said to myself, I wonder if I took these rings off and kneeled down and put them in the water, if they would float. And so I started to do it. I promise you, I started to do it. I took my rings off, and in the shower naked, I kneeled down at rehab and started to put my rings in the water, and I stopped right before they touched the water. And as I stopped, I moved my eyes to the hole where the water is supposed to go down, the drain, right? I moved my eyes to the drain. And obviously the drain wasn't, functioning properly because the water was building up, but still it's a drain, and there, water goes down the drain. And I said to myself, wait a minute. How stupid could I be? Why on earth would I risk two things that are so valuable to me? And I'm not talking about money. I mean, what do wedding rings and engagement rings symbolize, right? Why would I risk losing something that is so valuable to me just to see if they'd float, right? Why would I do that? I thought to myself, why would I risk putting these two valuable things that are mine, close to my heart, and expensive, right, in water just to see if they float? Why would I do that? Because what on the off chance would happen if they didn't and they sunk and they went down the drain? Then I would have lost them forever. And all of a sudden, and it had to be an act of God, of course, I believe that, it hit me. That was no different than my sobriety. Because why on earth, full well knowing what happens to me when I drink, bad stuff happens to me when I drink, why on earth would I risk something so valuable and precious to me that I work hard for, right, my sobriety? Why would I risk that just to see if I could, do it? Why Why would I risk something so important to me and, of course, my children, my family, because my sobriety, my family hinges on my sobriety. If I start drinking again, everything's going to change for my entire family, my kids. They rely on me and depend on me, right? So it hit me. That little moment of me saying, well, let me just see if my rings would float in the standing water, and then me almost doing it and saying, how stupid could I be? If I put them in there and they don't float and they go down the drain, then I've lost them forever. Something valuable and precious to my heart and expensive, right? So in that instant, just like that, at the snap of a finger, I said, my sobriety is no different. Why on earth would I risk all the bad things happening to me, going back to living the way that I was living and doing the things that I was doing, just living wrong and being unhappy and unruly and a control freak and, just a bad person, really, is the way I feel. Why would I risk going back to that just to see if I can do it normally again, right? Just to say, well, I've got it under control. Let me just dip my toe in the water and see how it feels, type of deal, right? Why would I do that? Why would I risk something so valuable and so precious? Because I knew it was. I knew that for me to drink was to die. And it still is to this very day. And I've talked about on many of my team calls before, and I know I talked about it on Washington, D.C. stage for Empower Network in October of 2013, about having moments. And, I talked about at the very beginning of this call my business a little bit, just because many of you guys know me from the business, and I wanted to put it out there and say that's not what this call is about, because this call is not about business. But I want to say that one of the reasons that I think that I've been so successful in this business is because of my disease of alcoholism, right? Because I get it. We in the business talk about the secrets inside of you. Like, everybody wants to know what's the secret. How do you post ads, and where do you post them? How do you do it to work from home? How do you have all the success, right? And we say the secret's inside of you. And I already knew that, because I had already gone through the worst of my alcoholism to date, knock on wood, right? That I never drink again and go through that again. But I already knew that it was up to me to change my life every single day when I get up. Like I said, I'm either facing towards drink or I'm facing away from it, and it's my choice to be sober or to not be sober. So for me, seeing blessings in my life was already happening. You know what I mean? So, and I said this on stage in Washington, D.C., we have these moments in life that we're so busy, and, it's like, oh, I'm busy, I'm busy, I'm busy. We always talk about stopping and smelling the roses, but how many people actually do it? And there was a moment before that desk was over there by that window that my daughter had come in here, and I was working, and she was like, Mommy, come here quick. And I'm like, what? I'm busy, Some parents, I won't say some. I think all parents do that at least once in their life. They're like, what? I'm busy. What do you need, And she said, Mommy, come here, please. It's important. And I stood up, and I went over, and I said, yes, Samantha, what is it? And she said, look, a flower's blooming. And in that moment, there was nothing more important in this world than me kneeling down next to her, which I did, and looking out that window and seeing what she saw, the way that she saw it, right, through the eyes of a child, that something magnificent and beautiful was happening, which is a flower's blooming. Now, to us as adults, we're like, okay, a flower's blooming. We don't think about things like that. But that moment was a blessing for me, because that moment I could kneel down and be next to her and be with her. And in business-wise, I frame it, because I work from home, I had the ability to be at home and be with her during that moment when she needed me and said, hey, Mommy, come here, check this out, right? Which is very true. I'm not discounting that. But in a bigger picture of that, the more important picture of that, is that I was here at home, period, and not locked up in a damn jail cell or dead from drinking, that I was able to share in that moment with her. That's the bigger picture of it. So you see, that's what I mean when I say I think my disease of alcoholism was actually a blessing for me when it came to the business I do, because I already got it. I already figured out the true blessings in life, the true important things in life, which is being able to, recognize and be present in spending the time with the people that we love the most, because time on earth is short, right? Time on earth is short. And so I already knew that. I already recognized that. that I was so blessed to even be here with my kids, because, you know, I can tell you right now, I told you last time I went to jail, my last drunk, my son was 8 months old, and I was locked up for 8 months. I was locked up as long as he had been alive, right? And even when I got out, I had an ankle bracelet and was still on house arrest for a long time. And it was horrible. So there's nothing more precious to me than my children, and saying, I want to be here for them. I want to be here for them. I have to change my life for me so that I can be here for them. And so then when I got into, you know, the business of working from home and internet marketing, and I tell you guys, the public, all the time, if you follow me, you know what I'm talking about, to tell your story, to share your heart, because people need to hear what you have to say. Someone needs to hear what you have to say, that you've changed your life so that they can change your life too. And that's what I'm talking about, is telling your story, no matter what it is, and sharing your blessings. I mean, when we lived in Richmond, there was a time that my kids were over there playing, not paying any attention to me, and I was actually cleaning, right? I was like in the kitchen cleaning the kitchen counter, and I just stopped and I looked over and I saw them over there not paying any attention to me. But in that moment, I just said, man, I'm so blessed. I'm so blessed to be here right now. And you know, I would think, and maybe this is wrong of me to say, but I'm going to say it, but I would say the average person doesn't just stop in the middle of scrubbing their kitchen counters and say, man, I'm so blessed to be here today. But I did, because I constantly think about where I was. And had I not changed my life, and had I not stopped drinking, I still would be in that horrible place. And I wouldn't be there scrubbing a counter in my kitchen, right? I would be sitting in a jail cell, which nobody should ever have to do. I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy, right? So I was feeling blessed and grateful just to be in my house cleaning a counter and to be present with my children, right? And so I really think, like I said, I have an advantage in the business because I understand gratitude and true blessings and gratefulness in sharing that. And it's just been amazing. And I also put on this call that I was going to talk about how I stay sober every day. How I stay sober every day is by not forgetting. By not forgetting. So the first part I talked about was how I made the decision that I knew I was an alcoholic, and it was answering that one question. Forgetting about what it was I drank, when I drank, how much I drank, how often I drank, who I drank with, you know, blah, 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 but really answering what happens to me when I drink. That was the definitive moment of I know I am, at least in my mind. I choose to believe that, because that will keep me sober. That's part of what will keep me sober, right? I also had that epiphany about, you know, why would I risk something so valuable to me just to see what would happen? You know what I mean? Why would I risk my sobriety just to see what would happen this time? That would be stupid, right? So I had that moment. But every day, day to day, what I do is I don't forget. There's some material that I like to read on a daily basis. I have groups of friends who have shown me a better way, that help me out, that I can call and talk to and gather together with and share stories with, and hope and inspiration. But every day I choose to remember. Every day I choose to remember how horrible I felt when I was drinking. Every day I choose to remember the neglectful type of parent I was. Because I was neglectful, because quite honestly, and people think, well, you know, neglect means this, or emotional abuse means that, or physical abuse is this, and blah, 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 mental abuse is that, you know. They define things different ways and say, well, this is mental abuse and this isn't, or whatever. You know, everybody has different definitions for everything, but I can tell you right now that, you know, it's abusive to your kids when, like, you can't get up and take care of them because you're hungover from the night before, right? That's neglectful. And I was a neglectful parent. And I choose to remember how bad it was. And I say this to my team all the time, and I say this to people publicly when I'm talking to them, like I'm doing to you right now. You know, don't ever forget. Don't ever forget where you were at your worst moments. And that's whether, you know, you're an addict or an alcoholic or have any other addiction or anything. Think about your worst moment in your life, where you were at, how you got there, and don't ever forget it. Because the moment that you forget where you came from, is generally the moments that you're going to end right back up in it. And I don't ever want to be that type of person again. I don't ever want to be that type of person again. And the beautiful thing is I don't ever have to be, right? Because I can choose. I can choose every day. I can't control other people. I can't control what other people think about me. I can't control anything like that, right? And that's okay, because what other people think about me is not my business. And when people want to bring drama to me and to my door, whether, you know, when I say my door, I don't mean my physical door, but if it happened, I would just shut the door in their face. But, you know, on Facebook or emails or whatever, when people choose to bring drama to me, I just choose to block or whatever I need to do, or just click trash on the emails, because I don't have to live that way anymore. I don't have to engage in things like that. I don't have to show up for every argument I'm invited to. I don't have to worry about controlling other people, because all I really have to worry about is controlling me and my choices. And by making the right choices for myself, right, and choosing the right way to live by remaining sober, that automatically pays it forward to my children and for those who look up to me for motivation and inspiration, which could be many, many of you watching this right now. I know that in this business I have helped so many people change their lives, and it's just the most amazing feeling in the world. But what I do to stay sober is for me. I can't stay sober for my kids. You know, I can't stay sober for the people who follow me, because when you try to do something like stay sober or, you know, whatever, stay clean, when you try to do things like that for other people, it doesn't last. You know, you have to do it for yourself, and when you do it for yourself, it benefits so many other people. So that's pretty much it. The last thing I want to say, and this is probably the most important thing I want to say on this entire call, is if you have a friend or a family member that you are watching suffer from the disease of alcoholism or the disease of addiction, don't ever walk away from them, okay? You can't help them in the aspect of making them understand that they need to do something. You can't force feed it down their throat. You can't shove it down their throat. And you see, I never had anyone, you know, really shove it down my throat. One of my brothers, you know, called me out on it, and it pissed me off. So, like, I didn't talk to him for a while. If you're watching, or if my sister-in-law is watching, you know who you are, right? But he was really the only person that really ever said anything to me about my drinking. But as far as anyone else, I never had someone cornering me and saying, you're an alcoholic and you need to do this and you're living wrong and you're doing this and you're doing that. And you know what? Had I probably would have treated them the same way that I treated my brother, which is, leave me alone, you don't know what you're talking about, blah, blah, blah. Because when you're in your disease, you don't want to hear what other people have to say. Because you're always the one that's right and everybody else is wrong, right? You know, I mean, that's just the way, at least for me, that's the way it was. So let me just say, if you have a friend or a family member who is struggling with a disease of alcoholism or drugs or a eating disorder, food, you know, anything like that, any other type of disorder that they can get help for, but they're choosing not to get help, don't leave them alone. And when I say don't leave them alone, I mean, don't walk away from them. Don't give up on them. You know, people have to hit their own different rock bottoms, and we can only pray. We can only pray for them, and you can only pray that they hit that and they find it and choose to change the way they're living before it kills them. Because I can tell you right now, and I said this earlier, for me, to drink is to die. And I don't want to die, right? I have too many beautiful, wonderful things to live for. Two of those are little individuals running around, Samantha and Blake, my 3- and 6-year-old, right? And just support them. That's all you can do. And be there to offer help when and if the time comes that they come to you and say, I can't live this way anymore, I need your help, or point me in the right direction, or I'm ready to get some help. Because when you try to force feed help on people, usually they just get pissed off. and push you away and get mad and angry. And if you're trying to force feed it on them while they're actually drunk or while they're actually on drugs or whatever the case may be, it could turn into a not good situation if they chose to get violent. You know what I mean? So just be there for them. That's all you can do. And I know hearing that is probably like the worst, most horrible thing to have to listen to, because you don't want to just be there to listen. You want to do something. You're like me. You're a fixer. You want to say, here's the problem. This is what we do to fix it, and then get them fixed, and everything's good, right? You want to fix them, and you want to help them because you love them. But I promise you that the best thing that you can do for them is to be a source of support, you know, to help them. And when I say support, please don't get that confused with being an enabler, because if you know someone who like needs $40 to go buy whatever, however much beer $40 buys, you know, and you give them $40, then you're enabling them. You know, don't give someone money if you know they're going to take it and go buy, you know, product to get themselves drunk, or drugs, you know, to do drugs and stuff. Don't enable them, but be a support system for them. And if you need any suggestions or ideas or help on who to reach out to, if you yourself are seeking to get help with your disease of alcoholism or drug addiction, you are welcome to message me privately or email me at tns.mastermind@gmail.com, or you can message me on Facebook at www.facebook.com/freemoneymommy. And I'll be happy to point you in the direction of some tools and some programs and guidance and assistance to get you, or if it's a family member or friend of yours that are seeking help, the information to get that help. And also, if you are the friend or family member and you're struggling and you need help as well, there is help for you. There's help for the sober people that care about the people who are in the middle of their addiction. So there's help for you if you're the outsider looking in, and there's also help for the people who are going through it and know that. And you're welcome to reach out to me, and I'll help anything that I can. So today, I really just, I think that's it. And this call, I think, is like over an hour now. Not bad for me, right? Not bad. So I really just wanted to put that out there. I wanted to share a little bit about the way that I was living, which wasn't right, obviously, and the things that I was doing, which wasn't right, and where it landed me, which sucked really bad, and how it really broke down, you know, my family with my kids, and what it took for me to realize, yes, you are an alcoholic, because that was one of the biggest things I struggled with, was the definition of what is an alcoholic, and am I really one? Because, well, I didn't do all these things, right? I was the excuse list of what I didn't do, and I quickly found out that what I wasn't doing didn't have any bearing on whether I was an alcoholic or not, because there is no, we don't fit into boxes. You know, like I said, people look at me and say, you do not look like an alcoholic, but you don't know. I mean, we have all different shapes, we have all different sizes, we look all certain ways, you know, so that doesn't matter. So I really wanted to share what happened for me to say, this is it, now I know I am, because so many people out there might be struggling with that right now, wondering if they are. So I wanted to share what it was for me that made me understand and know that I was, right? And you could listen to this and say, man, that's awesome. Now I understand and know that I'm not. And if you're not, great for you, right? I'm glad to help in any way. And I wanted to share the moment of epiphany where I said, how stupid would it be to risk something so valuable to me, like my sobriety. That was my aha moment. And then how I stay sober every day, which is by not forgetting how bad things were for me. And when you don't forget how bad things are, boy, you count every blessing. I can promise you that. It's funny, I was actually, last Friday, I put a post on Facebook that said, I don't know whether to be nervous or excited, because Thursday is coming quickly, you know, and it's my 3-year sobriety date, and some of my friends who are also, you know, sober, recovering alcoholics or drug addicts, you know, posted, calm down, it's only Friday, you still got like 6 days to go. And the reason they said that is so true, because it is only by the grace of God that one day at a time I stay sober. It's a choice every single day. It's not something I just fix and then move on with my life. Every single day I have to choose to not drink, and that's okay with me. because my life is wonderful now. And, you know, I still have bumps in the road. I still have disappointments and letdowns. I still go through, you know, the things that normal, you know, non-alcoholic or non-addicted people go through. In fact, most recently, I went, for those of you who follow me know me, I went through a state of depression that I'd never been through before in my entire life. I'd never been depressed like that before in my life. And the loss of loved ones and things like that. I still go through all that stuff, right? Just like anybody else. But you have the choice of how to go through it and the tools. I have the tools now to go through that and not drink, right? And be the person that I am today. Those things that I did in the past and the way that I lived don't define me. They were just things that I did. But when you follow someone, when you choose to have a mentor, whether it's inside of a business or whether it's just, you know, someone you look up to and that has nothing to do with business, they have to have something that you want, you know. And I can promise you, when you make that decision for who your mentor is, it's not because of where they were at in their past. It's because of where they're going in their future. And I hope that when you choose mentors and when you look up to people, that's what you're looking for, that you want to run with people and hang out with people and be friends with people who have the same vision as you do, who have the same goals that you do, who have the same aspirations that you do, who, you know, just are in line with what you want. And I hope also that you never settle because you think you have to, because you know what, don't ever settle, right? I said earlier, life is too short, and you should never settle. You should always go with what your heart said. You know, my good friend, I consider him a brother, David Wood, said something, I think it was October 13th, 2013, he put this on his wall. He talks about always follow your heart, because it will always lead to the fulfillment of your vision every time, right? Follow your heart. That struggle you have between your head and your heart, and you don't know which ones, because your head's going to tell you you're not an alcoholic, you're not this, you're not that, but you know in your heart. Ask yourself those questions, and hopefully you'll come to a conclusion that will help you better your life, whatever the answers are, right? So I want to thank you guys for joining me on this live call, if you're watching it live, for hearing me out, for hopefully not hating me for the type of person that I used to be. But if you do, that's okay, because like I said earlier, other people's opinion of me is not my business. But I just wanted to put out there and share exactly the type of person that I was and what it took for me to get from where I was then to where I am now. And it's all about mindset, and it's all about choices. It's all about belief. And again, in the business that I'm in, working from home, because I have those things, I have those tools, I really think that's led to a huge chunk of my success, because not only am I willing, able, and eager to learn and listen, which is a big piece of things, a big key of things, I'm also, I have the tools and appreciate that anything that I have to say, the power of my voice, which is what I said at the beginning of this call, really can affect other people, can inspire them, can motivate them, can make them mad, you know, whatever the case may be. Your voice has power. Your voice has power. And I want to give a shout out also to my girl Brianna, who she has gone through a different type of addiction and a different type of struggle than I have, but she approached me at an event, and I'm gonna, hopefully she doesn't get mad at me for calling her out. I'm not gonna tell what her struggle is. That's her story to tell. But she approached me at an event, and a lot of people approach me at events and take pictures and do videos and stuff like that and want to talk to me because they feel like I'm, you know, give them hope and inspiration and motivation to change their lives, right? I was sitting in my seat, and it was at the Washington, D.C. event. I'll never forget it. And this girl, her name's Brianna, she came up to me, and she knelt down next to me, and she was crying. And I didn't know when she was crying. I'm like, what's wrong? You know, are you okay? And she said, you know, you are such an inspiration to me. And she told me what her struggle was, which, you know, I can't relate to because I don't have that type of struggle, but I can relate to the process of what addiction is like, right? And she said the person that I've always wanted to meet, that has inspired me to be who I am now and to change my life and to share my story, now that I'm kneeling here in front of her, I can't speak. And like, I was blown away, because that was her trying to tell me that I'm the person that changed her life. I'm the person that she looked up to, that gave her the courage and the strength to share her story so that her voice could be heard to the people that can relate to her story and what her struggle was. And that now that she was in front of me, she was speechless, right? And a tear ran down her face. And I remember taking my finger and wiping the tear away and saying, "Oh, don't cry, honey, it's okay." And she said, "I just want to have the ability to be as powerful as you, in the fact of helping other people change their lives the way that you have." And I gave her a hug. I held her tight and I said, "Oh, honey," I said, "you have much more power than me, because you have the ability to reach people that I can't touch, because your struggle is different than mine. And people that relate to what I've gone through with my disease of alcoholism, if they don't have the same type of struggle that you've had and what's going on with you and the type of addiction you have, then, you know, they can't relate to me. They would relate to you. So you have more power than I do, because you can reach people that I can't even touch, you know?" And as I was hugging her, another person came up. And there was actually a line of people to talk to me, but the other person had kind of come up with her, but sat over in a chair to the side, and, you know, was just kind of there. And when I was hugging her, Brianna, and talking to her, that other person came up and leaned over, and I'll never forget, because I almost lost it. She leaned over and she said, "Thank you for holding my daughter. Thank you for changing her life." It was her mother. Brianna's mother was right there with her, right? And that is just so powerful to me. And she stood there, or well, she sat there, she was sitting in a chair, and she watched her daughter kneel down and talk to me, and she watched me talk back to her, and us hug and what I said, and her mother was just there as a support for her, and God bless her. God bless you. I know you're going to see this, because I'm going to send you all a message on Facebook and say that I called you out, right? But those two people are very special to me, and I just appreciate them so much. And keep doing what you're doing, right? Keep changing lives. So anyway, it's 9:15 p.m. Eastern Time. I'm going to hop off here, but thank you. Thank you for joining me tonight. Thank you for celebrating 3 years of sobriety in my life with me. I appreciate you guys so much. I hope that something that I've said impacted you tonight to help you, or to help a friend or a family member that you know that's struggling with addiction. Whatever type of addiction that it may be, or that I've helped you understand a little bit about what you can do if you're the person on the outside looking in to help yourself, to help them, or if you're the person struggling with the addiction. Hopefully I've given you some answers and some clarity on some things that you can think about for yourself that will help you answer those questions that you have always been wondering and just weren't sure. So that's pretty much it. Again, my name is Laura Parrish. I'm the #PNS Mastermind. And just thanks for joining me tonight, this 20th day of March, 2014. And one day at a time, day by day, by the grace of God, I look forward to doing another call just like this 1 year from today, celebrating 4 years of sobriety. I love you guys. I appreciate you. Have a wonderful, wonderful night. Bye-bye.